Welcome to the Wednesday night edition of our 8 o'clock digital update. We are live right now on all of our digital platforms. We are on our website, our app, Amazon Fire, Roku, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to jump right into today's top stories, a few of those stories at least. We are beginning with some developing news here in Savannah, where police are investigating a shooting. One man was injured in that shooting. This happened on Ash Street, just north of 37th Street. Officers say they responded there around 4 o'clock this afternoon, and they found that man with several gunshot wounds. We will continue to keep you updated once more information becomes available. However, we don't know anything about the status of that man or any suspects involved. Once again, that was on Ash Street near 37th Street. The Georgia election season is finally over. It ended last night in the runoff election for the Secretary of State's office as well as a spot on the Public Service Commission. Despite a record turnout in the general election, more than 2 million fewer voters took part in the runoff. There were a little more than 1 million that voted in this runoff. Now, Republican Brad Raffensperger, he won the Secretary of State's race. That gives Republicans a clean sweep of the constitutional offices in Georgia in 2018. He defeated John Barrow. You can see the margins there. In looking at the numbers, though, you see just how much the governor's race in November really encouraged people to head to the polls and participate. The Republican did cruise to a pretty comfortable victory with about 52% of the vote. His cushion last night was about 56 or 58,000 votes. That is a far cry from the 16,000 vote margin he had over Barrow in the general election. It's also a lot fewer than the 1.9 million votes Raffensperger got in the general election in November. So you can see a lot less participation there in the runoff. Now, the Republican former state rep says he will make preventing fraud his priority. He also says he wants to continue Brian Kemp's strict enforcement of voter ID laws. Kemp was the former Secretary of State. He is now the governor-elect here in Georgia. Raffensperger will officially take office in January. He will oversee all changes made to the voting process in Georgia, which Democrats say marginalized and disenfranchised thousands of African-American Democrat voters over the last decade. The other statewide race was that spot on the Public Service Commission. Republican Chuck Eaton won re-election to the District 3 seat over Democrat Lindy Miller. He won with a pretty comparable margin as Raffensperger and Barrow. Tonight we have an update on a case in Swainsboro involving a man charged with slamming his car into a Taco Bell restaurant. Now, this happened back in 2017, in September to be exact. Oliver Cope came into court today, still facing charges of murder and several more in that crash. Now, he's accused of driving his Challenger into that restaurant and killing Macy Mullis. She was in the restaurant that day. Mullis's mother told Cope in the court what the crash had done to her. Prosecutors did join the defense in asking the defendant to be ruled insane. Mullis's mother addressed Cope today in court.
You destroyed everything that was mine. And my life will never be the same, never.
The DA told the judge that 3 separate psychiatric evaluations found him incompetent to stand trial by reason of insanity. Cope will remain in a lockdown at a mental hospital as the judge considers her decision. But once again, the prosecutor and the defense attorney have now agreed that he should be ruled not guilty by reason of insanity. That about does it for our 8 o'clock digital update. We'll have much more for you tonight on The News at 11. We'll also have a weather update tonight at 9. Jamie Ertel will have that. And then we'll have one more news update at 10 o'clock. Until then, have a great night.